Hello, I hope you're having a great day. Today it's snowy outside, it's cold, and I thought it would be a great day to do a recap of my first year in flower farming and how 2021 went. And maybe some things I'm going to try differently in 2022, which I'm going to be starting my Lysianthus here probably in the next week or so. I can't believe it's already come full circle back to where it started. So in 2020, I decided I was going to try flower farming. I love being outside, I love doing landscaping, and I love flowers. And I thought, I was always cutting out of my own garden, and I thought, maybe this flower farming thing, like being able to cut flowers and give to other people, and just brighten up their lives. Like maybe I could do that and bring more joy in the world. So I decided, okay, I'm going to start flower farming. Another thing is that we have this farm that, I don't know, it's a really, really pretty farm. It's really natural and there's so many pretty things out there, but I thought that there could be other pretty things out there. I thought there could be more flowers and just more beauty across the land. So I thought I'm gonna start flower farming and see if this is something that'll work out for me. And I will let you know in the video how I've done. So the first part of becoming a flower farmer, I decided to do it. I was just like, I'm gonna be a flower farmer. And I have read, over this last year, I think I have read over 12 books on flower farming, watched countless YouTube tutorials, and just tried to familiarize myself with studying as much as I can about flowers and knowing, when do I cut them? What kind of things can you do to like make them last longer in the vase? What flowers smell the best? Which ones are the prettiest? And most importantly, I picked out, when I first started this, I picked out flowers that I thought would be successful and easier to grow, because I was growing on a huge scale compared to my small backyard. I went from a small backyard to a 1/4 acre in a field and cutting them and then trying to do the marketing and selling them and getting them out to people, and then also trying to just document my process along the way so that maybe I could help other flower farmers or other people that are interested in this field to see how it went. So my first step was I'm going to do it. I'm going to start doing it. So after I decided, okay, I'm going to start a flower farm, I decided, well, I'm going to need a sales tax permit, because you can't just sell flowers without one to the public. You can to florists, but you still need to say that, they didn't have to pay taxes. You still need like a business. So I registered for a federal identification number, and I got my federal tax ID, and so now I can put that in as my income when I do my income taxes, which is also coming up here in the next week for me. And then I got my Secretary of the State permit from the state of Iowa, and I got my sales tax ID. So I decided to do it, and then I jumped right in and I got all the paperwork done, and Marsh's Garden LLC was formed. And after it was formed, somebody said, why did you name it garden when it's a flower farm? This is why I named it garden. That farm has been in our family for over a century, and my grandpa had gardens there, my great-grandmother had gardens there, my dad had a garden there, and it was always a garden. So my flowers to me are my garden, and it is a farm. Like, there are row crops that are done by other people, and my flower field is actually a flower farm, but to me, it's my garden. So I named it Marsh's Garden. Which, on a side note, if you are going to come up with a business name, don't put an apostrophe S in it. It was bad on my part to do that. It makes email, like when you set it, like now I have Denay@marshsgarden.com. It just makes things more complicated to have the apostrophe, because you always have to take it out. Like in all sorts of like documents, it'll say like that's not allowed. Like when you put in your business name, not allowed. Like, so you have to like take it out anyway. So if you are thinking of a business name, I wouldn't put the apostrophe S on it. It just doesn't work. That's a good note. So after I got the paperwork done, I got a few books and I started reading my books and trying to figure out what do I need to do. And one of the first steps in most of the books was to plot out where the flower farm was going to be. And I actually went through and plotted it out, and then I had to go plot it out again, because I walk my dogs out there every day, and I was watching the sun patterns in the area where I first was going to do the flower farm. Did not get enough sun. Like, it was shaded by huge trees most of the day. So then it moved out into an area that gets sun all day. And in the winter, I've noticed it doesn't really get sun all day because the sun is lower. So, but in the summer, it was getting like full sun all day. And then at the end, it would like lose a little bit to the buildings and the trees. So I think it's really important to like pick out where you're going to start your flower farm and like what area. Like, you need full sun for most flowers. There are a lot of shade flowers, but you need to know your area. If you are stuck to a certain area, you need to find flowers that are going to do really well. So you really need to watch like all the way from morning until night. In the summer, when these flowers are going to be growing, or the spring or the fall, what does your sun pattern look like? How are you going to get water to them? You need to think of those things. So after I finally figured out where I was going to put this flower farm, I decided what I was going to grow. So I read countless books. Zinnias are on everybody's list if you're a first-time flower farmer, and they're on everybody's list that are flower farmers. Now, I started with a lot of zinnias, and they're just beautiful, and they last a long time. The one thing about them is they're a dirty flower. So you have like clean flowers, and then you have dirty flowers. And dirty flowers are the flowers that kind of have like a hairy, or like they have like a hairy stem. And what happens is they murk up the water. They make the water murky, and they make it kind of stink. So something like a peony that has like the real smooth stem, it doesn't do that to the water. It actually doesn't make the water stink. It doesn't murk it up. So when you get like farm fresh flowers and you notice that, the water gets murkier or starts to stink, you change it out. Like, change out the water, wash off the stems, recut them, and put them back in. And that'll, your water won't be as gross. But they're so beautiful. So it's like, yes, I can deal with murky water, and sometimes you can just put in a few instead of putting in a lot, and the water isn't quite as bad. But I did learn that this year, that there's a lot of flowers. There are a lot of flowers that have dirty stems, but they're beautiful, so you want to grow them. I don't know if there's very many flower farmers that don't grow zinnias, because they're just so beautiful. I mean, and there's so many good ones, but the Benary's Giant were fantastic. I don't know, I loved them all. Cosmos, I loved Cosmos. So I went through and just picked out what a lot of flower farmers thought a starter flower farmer should do. Like, it's because you have a lot of flowers that you're learning about. So like the zinnias, you can seriously put the seed in the dirt after all danger of frost is gone, and they grow and they're beautiful. The same with the Cosmos. Like, put them in the dirt. You want to make sure that your ground has enough nutrients to support all the flowers. But I was doing this in a field in Iowa that had been untouched for years, and we plowed it up and tilled it, and yeah, it was perfect. The ground was perfect. I didn't have to add anything to it. I will have to add things to it, I'm sure, as time goes on, but I was very blessed to not have to do anything to my soil to start the farm. So that is something, depending on where you grow, you might have to look into that. So after I picked out what I was going to grow, I had an entire list of it. I wanted to do lavender and peonies and you know, I had all these things, and I probably didn't get enough filler, like just greenery. But luckily, because the farm has been around a long time, there's a lot of stuff growing out there. I was actually able to use marrow honeysuckle in many of my arrangements. It usually outlasted the flowers. It was beautiful. It was a nice texture. There's also, I think they're called a wedding flower bush. I'm not sure. And they have a beautiful, I didn't cut too much of those, but I cut a few sometimes on bigger arrangements, and they had a really, really pretty green stem to them. And then I had grown yarrow and ageratum, and those saved me. Like, I could pluck those in everywhere. And I did salvia. So this coming year, the salvia, the lavender, all of these things should come back, and I should have even more with my perennial garden. After I figured out what I wanted to grow, I realized that we needed to get the field plowed. Like, we needed to have it plowed so that we could till it in the spring, and then I could start planting these seeds. So my dad went out and he plowed the field, and now I could see it. I could see what my field was going to be. And I had measured it already, and I had marked off where I wanted the field to be. So that did a lot of things for me. That let me know how much landscape fabric I needed to get. So I ordered my landscape fabric. I made up a template, and I burnt all the holes because I had plotted out where all the flowers were going to be, how much spacing they needed to be between them, and then I knew how long and how many drip lines I needed. So I did all of that in a program called GIMP, and I just went through and plotted out my entire field on how I envisioned it being. So I got that done, and then it was January, and I was starting to do seeds. And the very first seeds I started were Lisianthus. And the Lisianthus, I didn't get very much Lisianthus, but I got some, and it was the very first seed I ever started with. So I tried everything. I made soil blocks. I got a soil block recipe. I mixed in the cocoa corn. I mixed everything together, and I made these soil blocks, only to find out that while soil blocks are probably great for some things, I would never recommend starting Lisianthus in soil blocks, because you have January, February, March, April, and May. So I have 5 months that I needed to have my Lisianthus growing under grow lights, and those soil blocks just kind of deteriorated after that much time. I tried putting Lisianthus in trays and just like sprinkling it around the top. I was not successful with that. I also just bought Pro Mix seed starting mix. It looks like potting soil, but it's seed starting mix because it doesn't have all the chemicals, or not chemicals, but it doesn't have anything in it. And little seeds don't need all the fertilizers and stuff. As a matter of fact, it can hurt them. So I looked for a bag of seed starting mix, and I tried multiple seed starting mixes, and I honestly had the most success across all of my plants and all of my seeds, like the lavender, the Lisianthus, the salvia, the snapdragons. The best one I found was mix for seed starting. It was in a blue bag, and I cannot find it yet this year. I keep driving to Des Moines every week because I'm like, no, it was the best fun. Like, I have to have it. I have bought some other brands. I bought some Jiffy, and I bought some to, like, in case I can't find it again, and it worked. And another thing that worked were the cell trays. So cell trays, plug trays. I didn't try plug trays like the 248 or whatever, but I have the 70, I think, is it 72 cell trays, and they go down deep, and they're like really narrow. Those were the most successful thing I had for starting all of my seeds, keeping them on until I wanted to put them in the ground, and then even going out and putting them in the ground. They were the easiest, most efficient thing for me to use. I washed them all, and I plan on using them again this year. The Jiffy Pots that are supposed to degrade or whatever, I tried those, and they were horrible on every level. I know that you're not supposed to like say bad things, and like you're supposed to keep things uplifting, but those things were a nightmare for me. They didn't start the seeds. I had not very successful germination. And like, I would start the exact same seeds in a 72 plastic tray, and it was great germination. I tried with all the different soil potting mixes. This was my year of testing. I wanted to see what worked so I could be successful and go with something I knew worked in the future. And they were horrible. I will never use them again. They ruined so many seeds, or I don't know how to use them. I mean, it could be me. It could be user error, but they weren't intuitive. They weren't easy. And then I don't know. Like, I didn't see roots coming through, and I kind of felt like the plants weren't, like, they were struggling in them. So then I just started like taking the dirt out of them like I was doing with my plastic trays, because I didn't see them degrading like they were supposed to, and I didn't want all these in the ground. So now I just have this like massive mess of these that I need to like throw away and deal with. And it just wasn't a good experience, so I won't be using those again. I am going to plant everything I have in the plastic trays with hopefully the control mix. And then I had soil gnats. And soil gnats were eating all the roots off of all of my plants. So my plants weren't doing as good. So this year I am going to take some measures to try to make sure that any gnats in the soil are taken care of ahead of time so that I don't get them. And I did go around and I sprayed my basement on the inside, not the outside. I don't spray anything outside because I don't ever want to hurt the bees or anything like that. But I went around my windows. I found, I'll have to look it up. It's something that they use in restaurants for bug problems so that the food doesn't get it. It's relatively safe. But I sprayed that around my windows, my sump pump, and around the floor in the basement. So I'm hoping this year they can't come in. And then I hope as I plant my stuff out, I can like treat the soil with natural, get rid of any eggs or anything like that that might have came in the prepackaged mix, and then go from there. I started with so many different mixes last year. I couldn't even tell you which one brought in the gnats, but I think one of them did, and then I just could never get rid of them. I had the sticky things everywhere, and I'm hoping this year to not have that happen, because I think that was like the demise of a lot of my plants. But luckily I started so many plants, and then I had so many seeds that I could also start in the garden, that I did have a successful year anyway. So in January, Lisianthus. February, I started lavender. Both of those things I did get, and I was able to use in bouquets. So that was very exciting. And then I planted all sorts of stuff. I had snapdragons, and then I was like pinching my snapdragons, and I did this whole like chain of starting seeds in my basement. And then it started to warm up outside, and I was having to run all of those trays from my basement outside. I don't even remember. Can I remember? I don't know if I had 100 or 200 trays. And I was having to bring them up 2 at a time and put them in the sun for 2 hours, and then bring them back downstairs. And then put them in the sun for 4 hours, and then bring them back downstairs. And something I need to research, and I haven't yet, and I do need to, is I was putting them back under my grow lights. And all my plants did fine. They looked really good. So I put them in the sun for 2 hours, and then I put them back under the grow lights for the remainder of the day. But I don't know if I needed to do that because of the sunlight that they were getting. It's a process called hardening off. And so you take your plants out to get them used to the sun, but it'll burn them. It'll kill them if you just take them out and leave them in the sun after you've had them under grow lights. So then I was just putting them back on my grow lights. I'm not sure though. The sun might have been enough. That 2 hours might have been enough. I have to do some research on that still. But that was a pain in the butt. Like taking all those trays and running them outside and running them inside and running them out for an entire week. Nate was like, I will buy you a greenhouse if I never have to help you do this again. And we don't have a greenhouse yet. Maybe I could get a little something to put out in the yard and put them in, and like put them in the shelter of something and bring them in and out this year. I haven't come up with that yet, so I guess you'll find out if I'm running up and down my stairs or I actually come up with a solution before the spring for that. So after I got all of them hardened off, I took them out to the farm and I started plopping them in holes. There are some plants that I could do before our first frost, like the snapdragons, the lisianthus. All of those things are cold tolerant plants, as long as it's not going in, to the negatives or something and it's just frosting. I got those in the ground, I think at the end of April, like beginning of May. And then after May 15th, I started putting seeds. So I started my cosmos and my zinnias and all of that. And at the same time, the weeds were exploding. So I was trying to like keep a row weeded every week. And then my flowers started coming. And I was like, oh, I have to get these cut. Like, oh, and I need a deadhead. And oh my gosh, I haven't weeded in like 2 weeks. Or I haven't weeded that row for a long time. I need to weed. So after my flowers started, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to sell these. Like, if I don't sell them, then this is a hobby and not a business. And I need it to be a business because this is what I want to do full time in 3 years. Like, this is what I want to be out in nature. I want to be farming. I don't want to be stuck inside behind a computer. Like, this is what's in my nature. Like, this is what I want to do, but I have to be able to make money at it because I'm not old enough to retire. So I made up bouquets and I started driving around to different towns. The car is packed. And I'm just sitting here in the driveway at the farm. I need to get going. It's already like 1:30. I don't want to do this at all. Sometimes in life you have to do what you don't want to do. And even if it's a day full of rejection, wouldn't be the first time. So I can do this. I got this. It's not that bad. These are just people. Even if they like chase me out of their shop with a broom, like, get out of here, you salesperson. I guess I'll just have to giggle, right? Like, there's nothing more you can do at the circumstances in life than just take them as they are. Wish me luck, everybody. And just giving them my business card with a free sample bouquet of what I had to offer. And everybody was really nice and they told me thank you and they told me my flowers were beautiful and very kind. And let's see, I probably went to over 10 places that day. And of those 10 places, I got 2 places that actually ordered flowers from me again in the summer. And one of those places actually ordered flowers from me every single week until my season was done, which was amazing. But it's not enough. Like, I had way more flowers than supporting like one place. So I decided, I do live in a really small town and the Amish are close. I'm not going to lie. A lot of the florists that I went to said that they buy a lot from the Amish. And so, and that was all the way from Knoxville all the way to Des Moines. And I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even know like that they had that big of a market. Like they cover, I didn't know. I thought they rode around in horses and buggies, but like they obviously don't. Because in one day they had hit all the places I hit. So they must, I don't know what they do. I should figure that out someday. But anyway, so now I was like, oh yeah. And there's other flower farmers in the area, and you start like hearing all of these things. And I was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to offer my flowers to the public. And so I started offering bouquets and people just started Venmoing me and saying, can you get me a $50 bouquet? And I'd be like, sure thing. Like, when do you want it delivered? What do you want the card to say? And so now I just started making bouquets. So now I'm selling to florists and I'm making bouquets and selling to the public. I had a few people ask me if I would sell them flowers for their wedding. And I was very hesitant because I haven't been in this very long and I was wanting to grow the flowers, and I think brides are very particular about what they want. And I didn't know, like, I hadn't really experienced like an entire season yet. So I did say, no, like maybe you should go to the florist in town or something like that because I don't feel comfortable. But then I had this girl say, can I just buy the flowers from you? I want to put them all together. And I was like, well, yeah, you can totally do that, you know? Because now it's really, like, I trust my flowers at this point. Like, some of my flowers are lasting 13 days in a vase. So if I tell her what I did to make them last, I know she can make them last. I feel confident in my flowers. I just didn't feel confident in my design skills. So she did her own wedding and they were gorgeous. I should ask her if I could use some of her pictures and show people. So they just sat around, I guess, starting the bridesmaids, like the night or two before. They made all their table decorations for the reception. They made all of their bouquets and they were gorgeous. They were beautiful. I was so happy. I was like, oh, look what she did with my flowers. They're so pretty. But she was really talented and I was like, that is a really great outlet. And honestly, I think what she bought all those flowers for, I'm sure it can't be that much different to do real versus silk if you're just buying them in bulk from a flower farmer, if you're wanting to do like the design work yourself. I said, are you sure you want to do that? Like, that is a lot of work right before your wedding. And she was like, yeah, it calms me down. It will calm me down. It'll take my mind off things. It'll be a release. And so that worked for her. There are some people that would not work for, to have to put all of that together because they're real flowers. So you have to put them together within days of the event for them to be looking their best. But I thought that was cool too. So I was finding all of these different places of like revenue. And then I also did our farmer's market. I mean, our town is like 7,000 to 8,000 people. And we have a farmer's market on Saturdays, and I went up there every Saturday and I sold my flowers, and the town was very supportive. They came out and got my flowers, and so that was really exciting too. So I was starting to actually see like sales come in. So that took me through the summer. I was excited. I was making money. I was getting money back for all the investment that I had put in. So that was like exciting to see. And then around October, my zinnias started fading. Some of the other ones started. I didn't succession plant. That's something I'm going to do better this coming year. I should have planted more successions of things. But I also think zinnias just got, it was just the end. It was starting to cool off. They weren't doing as good. I wanted to make my current garden all a perennial garden and start a new annual garden in a different location just based on what I had been through all year. So I decided I was going to stop my season early and I was just going to take care of all of that. So then I ripped out all of my flowers. It was a sad day because some of them were so glorious still. And I did want to leave them for the birds and stuff, and I'm planning on doing that this year. But I needed to use the ground that was already tilled and prepared for putting in all of my peonies. So I put in rows of peonies. So in 3 years, I should have an abundance of different colors of peonies. And I planted all of my bulbs. So I did alliums and daffodils and tulips. I had ordered those around May, and then I never did get all of them in, but I got a lot of them in, and I just started putting them in the ground in the fall. And so that was constant. And then I was still putting bulbs in the ground and doing some farm cleanup and cleaning up areas because I know that I need to get more greenery and more like Christmas interest, because the flowers did great from May until October. But that, like May, June, July, August, September, October, that's only 6 months of income. And now I know that there's people that also can take their income into like, in May I didn't really, because that's when they're all starting, so there's no flowers. So it wasn't until really the beginning of June. So 5 months of income. And now, so that's why I've been doing a lot of research. People get the high tunnels and greenhouses, and what that does is it lets them start selling April and May flowers, and it also extends their season into like November, which just gives you a lot more time to be making money off your flowers. And I will get there, but I think I'm just going to get there slowly because I'm still, I'm going into my second year. I've learned a lot, and I'm going to try to expand this, and then maybe into my third year, I'm going to try to get a big old hoop house or something, and maybe even towards the end of this summer. But first I want a tractor because the tractor is going to take a lot of demand off of my body and save me time, and I'm going to be able to do more. So that's my goal this year, is to get a tractor. So then around November, Christmas, I just started doing farm cleanup. I was like, okay, I'm going to clean up areas and get them cleaned up. Like that way there's time for some of those little stumps to die off and get out of there. And then maybe some year I can like start planting better greenery, better trees, where trees exist now that are invasive or just like junk. You can't really use them for anything. They're not really that pretty. So like I have all of this in my head, and in order to do that, I need to clean up and like get some of the bad stuff out of there to put the good stuff in. So I started doing that. We had a crazy warm December. I did clean up almost all of December. Like it was amazing. And then it snowed, and I took a few weeks off and just relaxed. I was like, this is my relaxing time of year. And then I was like, what? People are already putting Lizzie Anthus in? And so now I had a nice, refreshing 2 weeks off. I spent time with my family. I spent more time with my animals. I took the puppies the other day to run through the snow at the farm. I thought for sure they were gonna just like be like, like wanting to jump back in the car, but they loved it. I mean, we take them on walks every day, but like I thought because it had just snowed, they were just not, like they don't go out their doggy door as much right now. So I thought they were going to hate it, but they had the time of their life. And I enjoy just walking around the farm in the snow and looking at the land that was just covered in snow and just dreaming, like thinking about the upcoming year, the 2022 year. What can I get in the ground? What's it going to look like? How is this going to evolve over the years? And I read books over the last few weeks. I got a lot of flower books for Christmas. They were on my wish list, and I have just been reading like book after book after book. So I feel like I'm still learning. I have a lot more seeds for this year, and I have a friend that we have some of the same seeds, so she can plant them in her garden. She's like a master gardener, and I can plant them in my field, and we can talk about like the different things that we see with the flowers. So I'm really excited about that in 2022, just to have, like she already has been giving me advice and helping me, but it's nice that like we have the same things to like talk about and, just discuss and get another opinion on. Oh, and another thing I did this Christmas is I started a bouquet subscription. So I was probably a little late to the game. I think I started it around November. But I did a CSA, which is community supported agriculture. So what that is people can buy a subscription to your services during your like slow downtime when you don't have income. You can bring in some income, and then you give the product out when you do have more income coming in those busier months that you have flowers. So I started a CSA bouquet subscription, and I actually had some people sign up. So that was super exciting. So that's another place of revenue where people can sign up for bouquets. They pay, a one-time fee. It's done, and now I need to deliver bouquets, which I will. So it works out really well, and I was really excited to get that going. I redesigned my website. So I have a website where you can order flowers, bouquets. I'm still trying to think of the best way to do that. The easiest thing I had this year is people would just Venmo me. Like they would seriously just Venmo me money, and on the Venmo it would just say, I would get $50, right? And they would say, I want this to go to this person at this address, and I want the card to say this. And it's like, okay, like I got the money, I need to get a bouquet ready. And I would say, okay. So a lot of people did message me first, and I'd say, well, can it be, you know, this day or that day? Some people would say, oh yeah, no, actually I want this on their birthday, which is like a week from now. So that was like, that I might need to figure out. That worked the best. Like, it really worked well. I could see where it might not work well if I got busier with like florists and, you know, I was doing more field work. But right now it works, and in 2022 I plan on being available to do that as well. So I think that's kind of a rundown of my year, my first year in flower farming. If you have any questions, comments, would like to know something, put it in the comments. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Oh yeah, did I make any money? I actually had a profit. It was a very small profit, very small, not enough to live on. Like, I could not support myself on it. But after I bought everything, which a lot of that stuff I can reuse. I, like, in 2022, and even my seeds for 2022, I actually bought them this year. So yeah, in 2022, I don't even have close to the expenses to put out. And I can reuse my fabric. I can reuse the tools that I've bought. You know, my next thing, I bought a truck. And, you know, I mean, it was just a farm truck, but I bought a truck. And in 2022, I won't have all of those expenses. So I should be able to save my income and hopefully put it into a tractor. But I did. I'm not going to tell you amounts. I'm just kind of, I don't know. I grew up where you don't tell people like what you make. Like, it's just a weird thing. And I know people want to know, like, what did you make? And I can say I didn't make enough to not have another job in my first year. But I made enough to pay for everything. And on the books, when I do taxes, I made a profit. So it was profitable in my first year. And you usually don't even make money when you start a new business for like 3 years. So I thought that was, I had read like that I would not make any money, that I would be in the hole. I already knew that going into this. So when I saw that I had cut a profit over this year, I was to the moon. Like, I was so excited because I was like, oh, I might be able to turn this into something. Now I will have to grow my business and find more sales outlets. But for my very first year, with all the learning I was doing and only going around a couple times to different florists to try to pick up new business, because then after, that's one thing, like after, like, you know, I wanted to see if can I support these florists? Yep. And I still have plenty of flowers. But now, do I really want to go after other florists? Because my season's going to end in a month, and now are they going to be disappointed? And so I just decided that I was going to go with what I had and like keep testing and keep learning about the flowers. So it worked out really well for me. If you quit your day job and you go into this, yeah, you're going to have to be really good at marketing and going out and getting those sales, because that's how you get your income. And I was okay because I had another source of income. But I'm hoping in 3 years I can get to where this is my source of income. Do I see myself getting rich with it? No. But do I see myself doing something that I enjoy, where I can like give back and it actually like brings happiness to my soul? Like, how, you know, like you can make a lot of money and not be happy, and you can be happy and not make a lot of money. Or maybe you can be happy and make enough money to like be happy and live a good life, you know, at a nice level. And that's who I am. That's where I want to be. So I am hoping in 3 years that's where this takes me. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope this video is informational. I am small enough that you can like send me a message and ask me a question. And I don't like get back right away, but I will get on at some point and go through any questions and try to answer them the best that I can. And I hope anybody else that is thinking about being a flower farmer feels comfortable reaching out to me and asking me anything that you want. I've been through it, and now I'm going into my second year. I'm going to be starting Lucianthus. I have so many seeds, so many more seeds than last year. I see how this can become like an addiction. But I am really excited to take the things that I learned last year with starting seeds and the things that failed, and hopefully have an abundance of green this year to put in the ground. Have a great day.